Hello, and welcome to the OMO Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we got the more Mario March going on, and we thought, you know what? This is the Mario that's probably like the big cheese of them all, but if anything, like, it's that game that's so classic that how can you not want to play it again? You know, every single time it comes out on something, I seem to just rebuy it. That's how it's always been. You know, when Mario 3 came out on Super Nintendo as the Mario All-Stars, had to get it there, you know. When Mario 3 came out on Gameboy Advance as Super Mario Advance 4, had to have it on there. You got the portability of it all there. Wii U version with the e-reader cards, and hey, now on Switch. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah, just a heads up, because I know usually on Mario May, or in this year, Mario March, because the movie comes out in April. I know we usually do kind of like weird odd-end things. It's kind of what we kind of pride ourselves on when it comes to Mario May or Mario March. But the thing is, there was another game we were trying to get done, but we both started playing Mario 3 around the same time since it dropped up on, Game Boy Advance online. And we're just like, you know what? I'm kind of feeling this more. Yeah, sure. The other game we were playing is fun, which we were talking about doing Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which is a fun game. But in all honesty, I was just feeling Mario 3 more. So yeah, it's not the weird, obscure shit that we try to do each year. But at the same time, it's something that I think nearly any Mario fan loves.
Yeah, it's just like the one that's like, I don't know, it's like when I think about Mario 3, it makes me think of like the initial time period of like when you're kind of first exposed to Mario 3 and like where you kind of played it at, like are those things that sort of stick in your mind. And I remember because my mom used to go to this gym that was in Twainhart way back in the day that was ran by like these guys. I always wanted to call them Hans and Franz, but I know that's not exactly what it was. It was like Hans and somebody else. And there was these German guys. So it wasn't that far off. They owned a gym and everything. They were from Germany. They were almost like SNL characters.
There had to be a picture of Schwarzenegger up there somewhere. If this is the early 90s and it's a German, I know he's Austrian, but it's a German workouts area. There's got to be a Schwarzenegger picture up there somewhere.
There definitely had to been because I know that this is just for like the small reference of people there, but okay, where this gym was in Twainhart is in the Twainhart Market area. The buildings at the far end of the shopping center, like way down there in like the L corner that hasn't been used in like 20 years. It was in that section there.
That section's like a ghost town. The other section's just like a rotating door of like businesses. So
yeah. The only section that's like there's not even like rotating business anymore. It's like two businesses left. It's Pizza Factory and Twainhart Market, nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, but back in the old days when there was all kinds of stuff there and fun stuff, I even noticed this year they didn't even plow the snow out of the way of that whole section over there. Like, fuck it, whatever.
we plowed, like,
we plowed 1/4 of it. Yeah, like who are we plowing it for? There's no businesses here. But at that gym when my mom would go there was like a little kind of like kids room where like in this kids room there was like an NES plugged up to an old like CRT TV. You know, there's a bunch of action figures in there too, which of course I found I like archaeologied my way through there and said, oh shit, here's an Iceman figure and all kinds of stuff. I'm taking these home. Like, I'm not leaving this here to like, you know, get destroyed by some who knows who. But I remember going there and there was this one like slightly older kid probably in there, you know, probably like all of like 2 or 3 years older. But, you know, at that age of like 4 or 5, it's like that guy seems way older than like anybody else. And like he would always get all those like NES games that, you know, they had a hard time working, booted up and so on. And I remember just playing Mario 3 and of course Zelda in there, Sight Bike, Gunsmoke. There was all kinds of stuff there, but really just kind of diving into it like 1 hour a day, you know, as my mom worked out.
Yeah, my brother had a NES, and most of my memories of original Mario Brothers 3 comes from being in his childhood room watching him play. Because at the time, I was kind of like, this shit looks intimidating. And even though I liked Mario at the time, Mario World was the thing to really pull me in and made me say, let me try this out. And that was my real kind of like introduction to video games. But at the time I liked Mario, but I didn't play it because it just looked intimidating. I just liked the idea of the character in the world. And then seeing him play Mario 3, I'm not going to lie, for a minute I was a little like thrown off. Like, is that Mario? Because his overalls are supposed to be blue, but these overalls are black. And not really putting two together for the longest time. Like, oh, wait, okay. You know, I wasn't the brightest kid. I'm still not the brightest adult, you know. But anyway, And then it wouldn't be till like, you know, because Mario 3 was just the baseline. That was the game that we had. And I think when you're presented something at a baseline, it's hard to be kind of like, wow, like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's neat, but it's, you know, whatever. And then when you get older and you kind of go back and play it, yeah, sure, there's all this nostalgia to where you like it, but then you realize how much you like it so much more. Because when my go-to for nostalgia play and when it came to Mario games was always Mario World. That was always my go-to. And then Mario 3 was really fun, but it was never my first go-to. It was like, it's a really good game, but Mario World's my jam. And then going back and playing both at the same time, I still probably lean more towards Mario World, but I have so much more respect and much more appreciation for Mario 3 now, actually kind of going back and replaying it again, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like I'm with you on that one. Like, definitely Mario World, as far as all the older kind of Mario series, that's probably still my favorite one. But Mario 3 is so close, though, because Mario 3 is the one that's like, I've always, even when I was a kid, I felt like there was actually so much more content in Mario 3 than there is Mario World. It's like Mario World's almost the one where it's like it's stripped down content wise, but I feel like the gameplay is just so dialed in that version, you know. But like in Mario 3, it's like God, you get like 10 different like suits you can jump into. There's all kinds of ridiculous secrets in there and so on like that. And you know, that was almost some of the fun stuff of it, is just how much like hidden, you know, material was in that game. And there's not secrets in Mario World, but they just don't feel like there's as many as there is in Mario 3.
I think the thing with Mario World, it was a couple of things. At the time, I was able to put together. I think I was more wowed because, you know, Mario World came out when I was in preschool, or kindergarten actually. So I think I was first off wowed by the level of colors you could have. I like the idea of riding Yoshi. There is just something about all the music. The music really just caught my attention. There's just something about that, that game that just caught my child brain, you know.
Yeah.
And Mario 3, maybe if like we had the Super Nintendo version of Mario 3, you know, Mario All-Stars, and I saw it at the same time, maybe that would be the favorite. I don't know. But going back and playing, and it's not like I've never played Mario 3 before, because I actually had, because right now we're not covering the proper Mario 3. We're covering Super Mario Advance 4 for the Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance. And that one is the version we played through this retrospect. And I actually think that is kind of the definitive version. I mean, I'm sure that just because, you know, you could see what they really wanted to do at the time graphically. And with the updated graphics and all that, it really does have visually, there's a lot more variety within this game compared to Mario World. But at the same time, it also like, I've been hogging the mic for a minute. I'll give it to you. But yeah, you know.
Well, I know what you mean, because of the Mario Advance version, like it's kind of like the Mario All-Stars one as well too, but especially the Mario Advance one. Like this is the one that I feel like it kind of brings Mario World and Mario 3 a lot closer graphic wise and all that sort of stuff, so that they definitely feel like there's not as much of that jump between, like, don't get me wrong, like the NES one, like it's like one of the best looking NES games on there and so on. And I personally like that version a lot anyways, because the graphics just, there's like it makes the levels look different, like on certain places than in All-Stars, like, and so on. So it is kind of cool to have that, but yeah, the Mario Advance on the Game Boy, and I remember when that came out, because that was one of those ones, like I have all the Game Boy Advance ones as they were, and just having Mario 3 in your pocket to take around. If you're lucky enough to have a Game Boy SP, I don't think I had one right yet, but I got one. No, I think I did get one kind of about that time, because I remember that was like, yeah, it was like the perfect one. Like that Game Boy SP was like the best Game Boy ever made, because it fits in your pocket, super nice. They figured it out that like by the screen kind of closing, you're never going to get it scratched or anything like that. Because there's like, before it's like, no way I'm putting a Game Boy Pocket or a Game Boy Color or any of those other ones in my pocket. Like, what are you, crazy? You need a case for this thing. What are you, a maniac? I'm like, I knew this at 6 years old, you know? There's no way. But once they had that one, that was like the first Game Boy. You're like, you could put that in your pocket. You don't need a case technically.
I don't mean to derail us, because it's not even Nintendo, but it goes in the thing of handhelds. Remember when PSP came out and they had that one ad where it's the POV of the PSP, and it's just someone holding it and doing this. You see everyone, they're playing that. Oh no, you don't know, you know. I think it's Franz Ferdinand.
Take me out. Yeah,
that song. Yeah. And like you just see so many people just recklessly like doing this. You see somebody like skateboarding and doing it. Like what fucking idiot would be? That thing's $300. That's $300 right there in your hand. $300 in like 2003. What the fuck are you doing that?
It's like $600 a day.
Yeah, exactly. And then the end, it's like a kid in class. He's like, oh, and then just like drops it in his bag. Like, you're going to put a PSP and just drop it in your bag? Like, no, you're not going to fucking do that. You're not doing that, especially then. Fuck that kid.
Yeah, well, that's what
fuck everybody in that ad.
Yeah, exactly. He's disrespecting the systems and so on like that. No, you got to have those cases. It's like when the Switch came out too. It was like, well, there's ones like, I know this is meant to be for portability, but no, this thing needs to go in like a lockbox. like I literally have one of those big fat Switch cases. Like if I do need to take it somewhere, where it just looks like it's like a duffel bag almost for the thing. You're like fold it up in there, lock it up, put the seals on, spin the locks on there. Okay, are we set to go? Yeah. Do we check the durability of it? Like, will a bomb take it out? Oh no, it's good to go. Okay, perfect. We're ready for travel.
Like the nuclear football, you have like the handcuff.
Yeah, it's handcuffed to you and everything like that. That was like, I don't know why, but this kind of reminds me of Mario 3. But I remember like it was like when the SNES Classic came out, and I remember like how hard they were to get one, and that was like one of the last times I remember finding a system at the stores and having that feeling like, oh, there's one there, and your heart starts racing and stuff. And then like they give it to you, and it's like they don't give you a bag. You're like, I'm gonna get mugged in the parking lot right now. Like everyone knows what I just got. You know what I mean? Like I would get shot, and then like the police officers be like, yeah, I understand.
I get it.
Super Nintendo Classic. I probably would have done the same thing. I know I'm a guy of the law, but let's be honest. Who doesn't want a little mini Super Nintendo in their house?
Let's view it this way: was it stolen, or does someone just want it more?
Yeah,
if he wanted it more, he would have been prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Case closed, Johnson. Case closed.
So, long story short, going back to the good old days of Game Boy and so on like that, and having Mario 3, traveling around, and that was also the other one too. It's like the perfect one for like you're sitting in class, you got your feet kicked up on the table, backpack in front of you, so you look like you're doing something. But no, you got the Game Boy there, and you could always do the rotational playing on it, where like you'd be like, okay, one person plays Mario, one person plays Luigi, you switch off between levels. You know what I mean? Good way to kill time in class.
You know what? In all honesty, I wasn't one of those people who brought his Game Boy to school all that often. I did maybe a couple times when Pokemon was huge, but after a while I stopped just because I saw how many fights would break out over a Game Boy, or some dickhead kid would try and fuck with another kid by breaking his Game Boy. I'm like, I'm not going to become a statistic. So no. For me, it became kind of like, by myself in my room, unsociable thing about playing my Game Boy, or like, maybe if I was traveling, then maybe I'd bring it with me, of course, then, or like, if I knew there's a long road trip or something, or a plane ride. Yeah. But no, this was definitely, when I was playing this game, and I think I had something similar to the Switch, because when I was playing this game right here, not the Switch. Switch. When I got Mario Advanced for Super Mario Brothers 3, it was I was playing it on the DS, and the original DS, where you actually had the slot for Game Boy cartridges in there, and the button alignment was kind of weird on that, because you think it would just, by placement, it would just be what usually because there's two more buttons they've swapped around. Well, it was the same thing on the Switch over here. I thought that was something they would fix to some degree, or at least give you the option to change the buttons. Maybe you can, I don't know, I didn't see that, but because I just noticed the big difference between the running button and the jump button from when playing it on because I was playing like Super Mario World simultaneously while playing this, so I just noticed that difference. So I have to switch up.
The downfall is Nintendo's always been, they're still bad about that to this day, is that they don't do the thing that you're supposed to do. Is that when you have an NES game or a Game Boy game, when it goes into a Super Nintendo like controller, or Switch controller, or any of that kind of stuff, DS, it's supposed to be they just match B and A together to make it non-confusing to the stupidest people around. But like to any gamer, it's like no, you're supposed to switch it from Y to B is how it's supposed to be, and then it's natural. Then it's like Super Mario World. If not, then you got that weird thing where your hands like twisted up, and you're like, oh, it's just not working right. The half-assed way that Nintendo sort of has like done it, where like they kind of go, we'll meet you halfway there, is they make X like as B instead. So like you can hold it up that way, which is definitely much better. Like you can do it on the Switch version of Mario 3. You can literally play it with you can hold it in that way, and that's how I was generally playing it. I tried to plug my NES controllers into it, but the only downfall is that like they work fine for most part, but they miss out on it if you have to hit the L and R to do the save state. For some reason, they switch those ones up so that it doesn't work properly on any other system but the NES.
Yeah. So that right there, I guess I don't remember exactly the buttons X, A, B, Y, whichever one it was. I remember the original the original game is B to run, A to jump. But as far as button alignment on the Super NES controller or to the Game Boy or the Switch, I don't remember that off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're all the same. They've never changed.
Okay, it's weird placement. It wasn't as bad as it was on the DS, because the DS was this weird thing where one was kind of hovered over the other, but Switch was a little different, and people were like, all right, whatever, we get the point. The long way of saying, I forgot this game actually has, because every so often you'll play like a Mario Maker level, and you go like, oh, Mario would not have this level this hard in like one of the real games. And for the most part, yeah, there's those games where just someone hates life or just wants to make like the hostile equivalent to a Mario level, you know? Mm-hmm. But then there's also those ones where just like, oh no, this is one of those levels where you actually have to think. 'Cause I'm so used to Mario just getting to the end of the goal that this is a level where you have to think about it for a second. And okay, you're in this cave. What do you got to do? You keep on going in this loop, but every time you come through here, you have an opportunity to get the leaf. So that means you need to grab the shell of this Koopa Troopa, get enough momentum, fly, kick the shell, break this thing, and then go into like break these bricks, and then go into the next stage and kill that piranha plant, and then through the pipe or whatever. There's a couple levels like that, not many, but there's a couple like that, or something where you need that very like good, like that kind of like, you know, like you actually have to think about it and you have to be quick on your feet and all that. There's a few of those where I'm like, fuck this level, not doing it, because the button placement. I'm like, I don't want to be the guy literally blaming the controller. But it's like, you know what? If this was the normal button placement, I feel like I can get it. But just with this angle and trying to get enough space and then trying to fly up and then knock the thing, I can't fucking get it with my thumb like this. So you know what? This is a level that's optional. Fuck it. Or maybe it was a situation like, oh, there's a like near the one of the final levels in the last world, one of the first levels in the final world, where like there's a bullet bill shooting across the screen, then two more going the other way. You got to go boop, 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 and then get over this thing. I was like, I got to beat this shit for the podcast. I forgot about this part. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to get the infinite P thing and just fly over all this. Fuck it. You know?
Yeah, well, that's what it's there for. You know, to use it when you get to those kind of levels and so on. I'm going to say this real quick, just because somebody might point it out, but you can also, in the Switch's menu, if you go in there, you actually can switch the buttons around on certain controllers so that it's like one of those features that like Nintendo has just never really advertised, but it actually is there. But it's not, you can't just do it on like any controller. You know, so because of course, like it's like the N64 controller, you can't switch the buttons around. God forbid you do that. You know, but kind
of like Ryan not doing research as usual. Like, yeah, that's true.
but yeah, as I said, it's like the one like thing is like if you do the X and A, that's like the closest way to get a norm. I mean, it's not as good as Super Mario World style, but it's like. At least your thumb is in the right position, because that's kind of how I was always playing it. I said actually the N64 controller, ironically, is almost like the best controller to play any of those things with, because the buttons are always in the right position. Because B and A is like how like you know God intended.
Yeah, and on that, not so much the Nintendo 64, but Mario 64, and we'll get off button alignment, because I'm sure when people turn into like a Mario retrospect podcast. They don't do like, let's listen to the button alignment issue, but
hey, you know what? Anybody who's really into video games, that stuff's a big deal though. Like, you know what I mean?
It is
like,
a big deal.
Because my whole life, it was like, I remember back in the, going with the button alignment, going back in the day when Super Mario, All-Stars came out, like the buttons, like if you hit, I can't remember what it was, but if you hit like the wrong button, like select or X or something like that, it would shift the buttons on there and it would jack it up from like, it would make it B and A and instead of Y and B and everything like that. And I mean, even the button alignment, I remember like, this goes back to like when me and Cisco we were playing, Mario 3, like his sister Gina, she was like the master at that game, but that was like probably like the only video game she really ever like mastered. And like, once that was done, she was like done with games. I remember we were sitting there playing Mario All-Stars. I'm like, hey, Gina, you should come by and play Mario 3. It's like your favorite game or whatnot. She took one look at the Super Nintendo and threw the controller out. She's like, I ain't playing with that fucking shit. Like, get me a real controller. and that was her attitude. And she was just angry all the time. So, I mean, it wasn't out of character, but
yeah,
that was how she treated the button alignment.
Well, button alignment, it's one of those things. Like it's manageable. But I was gonna say, like in Mario 64, they had that weird fucking Mario 64 DS. They had that weird fucking thing where it's a 3D Mario game, but you still, even though that game's really fun, you got to hold for him to run. I don't know. Why is he doing that in 3D? That was a weird little.
Well,
thing
that's because you didn't have the joystick, which that was the one thing I always thought was kind of like one of the only things about the original DS is it should have had the joystick kind of equivalent to like what was on the 3DS or even the PSP. Like I felt like that should have been on there from day one. You know what I mean? But that's the only reason why you had to, because if you wanted to walk, I guess you could always. There's some games that do it the other way around, where you hold a button to walk, like Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider does that, where she runs all the time, but if you need to walk because you're getting to like a dangerous cliff or something like that, you hold like L1 or whatever.
Yeah. It seemed like something that was more like. It would have been probably harder to with the latter, what you just said probably would have been better for that one. But as far as this game goes, going back to like the game itself, I think that because I was kind of wondering, I was looking at some more recent stuff, and I feel like this is really kind of like status quo Mario, but to like the best because I think Mario World is still its own kind of theme. The big difference between this and Mario World is this has more variety, but Mario World feels like, no, you're on this special little dinosaur country, and it's going to stay to that theme. And it feels like a big deal because you're just going across from one side of this island to the other side of the island to around it so there's, and plus with the addition of Yoshi, which added things, and there wasn't as many power-ups, but the power-ups were pretty awesome. There was something about that game that just made it, even though there was less, it felt so big. Where this one, I feel like, there is probably more content at the end of the day, and there's even more variety. But since you're just jumping from world to world, like, okay, this is the fire world. Okay, this is the ice world. This is the, whatever. But I feel like this is kind of like what every other Mario, because they might take elements from like Mario 1. They might take elements from Mario World. But at the end of the day, every side-scrolling Mario game, I think, is trying to be Mario 3.
Well, it sort of is the big pinnacle of all kind of Mario things. Because to me, I feel like Mario 3s were like, in a sense, like what the modern day kind of origin, like feel of all kind of Mario things kind of all accumulates right here of Mario 3. Like this is the one that kind of gets it all sort of dialed in. Like we're Mario 1, 2, and Lost Levels. That's still like almost like, it's like proto Mario. We're getting it dialed in and everything like that. I feel like once Mario 3 is kind of set, that's almost like that's Mario, and it kind of almost who he's always been ever since then,
Yeah, and going to this version specifically, I think that something the Super Mario Advance series did a good job of is doing that thing as you're playing the campaign, you could switch off between Mario and Luigi, because it always feels weird. It's the Mario brothers and Luigi's just player 2. That's all he fucking is. And I granted, you were given the option to switch off between Mario and Luigi as far back as Super Mario World, but and you even share the same controller. But this one right here, though, you could do that in Mario 3. I think it really adds a lot more to it. And it kind of adds that level of just kind of like, I don't know, that nice variety. Yeah, sure. One's red, one's green. But at the end of the day, I feel like that kind of makes Luigi feel like more of a part of it than just player two by the end of the day.
Yeah, and in this version, they make it so that Luigi has like his kind of his Mario 2 abilities, where he's got the little floaty legs and he could jump a little bit higher and things like that. So, because that's not in like Mario All Stars or any of the other versions.
Mm-hmm. I do still think it's funny. I mean, when I got to the end of the game, I was still with Mario, but I remember one time I beat it with like I was playing as Luigi, and I beat Mario World with Luigi. It says Mario and his friends save Bowser's. Are you fucking shitting me, dude?
I know Luigi always just got the shaft for like ever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those ones. It's like it was the same way I always felt like with Mario 64. I remember like the whole time when that game came out, my first thing was like, oh, so can you play as Luigi? It's like, no. I'm like, how hard would it have been just to change Mario's costume? Let's be honest. Like, you could just literally put a green costume on there, change the mustache maybe, and call it Luigi. And that's all anybody wanted. And then make it have the same 2-player thing where you switch off back and forth.
There was, I think it may have been like, did you know? One of those kind of videos. I'm not sure if it was that exactly, but there were at some point, Shigeru Miyamoto was talking about having Luigi as a playable character in Super Mario 64, but then it just became down to like, just get the shit done, you know?
It's probably because, I mean, realistically, it's because it's a launch title. I think that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can only do so much and be like, shit, like, this game has to come out. It's not like other games that you can kind of be like, yeah, that's okay if it comes out 6 months later. No. This is what people are buying an N64 for.
I'll be goddamned if the only launch title we have is Pilot Wings. I will be goddamn.
Yeah, because I think it was like at least in America we had multiple launch titles, but I want to say if you bought an N64 in Japan in like March or whatever the heck came out, it was literally just Pilot Wings and Mario 64. That was all you got. There was no other games. I think when it came out in the US, by that point there was like 3 other games. Like I can't remember if Shadows of the Empire might have been like a week or 2 later, but that was pretty darn close. And there's a couple like I don't know, like Ridge Racer 64 or something like that. At least you had a couple choices. Yeah. Granted, I'll say it's Mario 64. I know we're on a Mario 3 podcast, but Mario 64, I do think is legitimately the best launch title ever made.
Yeah, like, it's kind of hard to top that.
Because that game, it's like every time you go back to that game, like it's almost like one of the best games ever made. It always plays fluid. It always plays amazing. It's super fun. Like, it's just one of those ones. Like I always think about like do no other system. Like when I think of systems and like their launch titles, I mean Mario World's pretty darn close too. I mean that is, but Mario 64 just being that groundbreaking, like where Mario World it's like the best of like 2D. But Mario 64, it's like here's a brand new. You've never played anything like this before. Get in or get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that also would have been actually enough, like, to kind of keep you there for a while. Because Mario World, it's like, this is familiar. I know this. I played it on Mario 3. This is the fine-tuned version. And it's more colorful, but I know this. But I'm happy I have it. Where Mario World, in Mario 64, even though I'm wrong, Mario World is probably my favorite game. Sorry, it's late here. Mario 64, though, it is a whole new thing, and there is like a lot of replayability, more so than Mario World to that. And even, I'm going to say, there's no way, after playing this version of Mario 3, I know there's no way I could ever beat Mario 3 without cheat codes on NES. I know that for a fucking fact. As we played through it on this, I'm like, thank God there's save states and a rewind because I remember I barely beat it on like back on when I had it on like my DS. I barely managed to beat it. Where this is like, oh my God, thank God I got all this. And yeah, sure, it's kind of cheating, but I don't give a shit really.
My defense that I've always had for save states and even like the rewind, I mean, like granted, yeah, like anything, you could exploit it. But at the end of the day, this is what I always say. You still have to do it. You still have to get past it. The only thing that it really does is it just saves you the time and hassle of having to start the whole level or whole war over again that you've already beat, multiple times. Like that's the only thing it sort of does. Is it just saves time is really at the end of the day, but you still have to put the work in, I guess. You know what I mean? As I said, you can kind of exploit it where you do the thing where like hit a boss once, rewind, hit a boss again, rewind, like that kind of way. But at the same time, I will say you are figuring out the strategy. It's like you're almost like really studying it and so on like that.
sometimes you find yourself you're becoming too much of a perfectionist. You find yourself in this weird like hell loop where you just like you can't find that happy middle. It's like, oh, I'm stuck. Well, I don't want to lose this power up, but at the same time, I'm either stuck between this fireball or like Windy Koopa. Shit, fuck, you know.
And it's the other thing I always say too, save states too. Anybody kind of bitches about them? Like computer games have always had save states. Like no matter what it is, like Doom, any of those older games like that, all the adventure games, they all have save states. That's like how they ran. Is you're supposed to have a save state. Like even the old. That's why Tomb Raider is better to play on PC than it is to play on anything else, because you don't have those stupid save crystals that appear once in a blue moon. You actually can just save wherever you go. That looks like I'm gonna die here. Save, Laura, jump. Yep. Good thing I saved right there. Where on the PlayStation, you'd be just like, oh, fuck. That's how far back I am. Are you kidding me?
Well, it looks like you got eaten by a T-Rex. Fuck you. Do it again. Where like something like I'll say, sometimes people is like, yeah, you know what? If you weren't a good enough player to beat it back then, you weren't a good enough player. I'm like, all right, if you're a kid, truth is you probably have more time to kind of go back and replay this shit. When you get a little older, and I don't want to you could use the old man excuse, like, you kids don't know what it's like to have bills to pay. But it's one of those things, you get a little older, like, yeah, I don't really, if it wasn't for save states in some retro games, I probably would never beat them again. Not all games, of course, but certain ones, it's just like, look, dude, I don't got the time. I don't got the time to actually really memorize all this shit. Some of these games, I forgot how kind of hard they can be, especially like this particular game. The final world is where I felt like it really kicks up. That's where, because before I was going through, and I'd have to rewind once in a while, use a save state once in a while. Nothing too bad. But the final world really, and plus you think like, okay, I'm getting there, because you go over, because it really does do a good job building up stakes. You're going up against like Koopa's army of like tanks, and then like two or three flying fortresses, and then those obstacles where the hand comes up and pulls you down. You think, okay, and like, okay, now you're facing the real levels. Like, those weren't fucking levels? No, fuck you, bitch. That was just the first wave. That wasn't a fucking level.
Well, that's the one thing that's always been nice about Mario games is generally like they always do that thing where they have that progression where it starts off and you're like, okay, it's not so bad. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, these levels are getting really tough, and you get really farther into it, and some of them get harder and harder and harder, and it just gets way more intense on like the progression it goes, especially when you find like the bonus levels and things like that, where it's like, oh man, somebody they want to make super challenging like situations.
Yeah. I think Mario 3 definitely has like a very good level difficulty progression as it goes on. And I think, even like to the level of the power-ups, because I feel like the only power, like it's kind of weird. There's some power-ups they kind of swore off and they never really use anymore. They never really use the cape. You hardly even see the cape in like merchandising stuff. But they've really held on to the Tanuki suit as well as the Tanuki ears and tail.
Well, and remember though, there was that long period though where the Tanuki suit was lost. That's the thing though, is like there was almost like at least like a close to 20-year period where the Tanuki suit you never saw, because that was the thing though. Is like for the longest time, it's like, man, why don't they ever bring back the Tanuki suit? Why don't they ever do that? And it's like, and it wasn't until Mario 3D World that they finally brought that back. And then of course, since then, you do see it quite often, but there was a long period where that was like lost. Yeah.
Well, it was just one of those things where I wonder why that's the one they chose on. Maybe just focus groups really liked it, or enough like, you know what, like Gen Xers and millennials love this shit. Just fucking throw it in every Mario game now. Because I guess now it feels like it's in a bunch of them. So, or like some variant of it. So it doesn't feel like it's been gone for so long, but you're right. It was Mario 3D World where they kind of brought it back, and then it was back in New Super Mario Brothers 2 for the DS, and then there's probably another game or two that it snuck into other than Mario Kart 8. But it's weird because the only power-ups that have had like a big staying power is just the mushroom, the flower. Even the flower took a minute to come back in 3D, and then the Tanuki suit. And sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest, I like the Tanuki suit. I'm happy to have the Tanuki suit, but I usually prefer just the tails and ears. I know the Tanuki suit has more function, but I just prefer the tails and ears more. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the Tails and Ears I think is always that's just a cool look because I feel like it still captures more Mario because really in the other version it's just Mario's face and nothing else more. But like the tails and the ears, it's like that's it. I mean, it's the cover of the game. It kind of has that real feel. It takes you back to it and everything like that. And even kind of going the other power ups, it's like where's like the frog suit or even like the boot? You know what I mean? Like all those other ones. I mean, like there's been some like references to the boot is like here and there in the ice skate. And some of like the Paper Marios and stuff have had like kind of like little mentions in it, but like you don't see it tons of times.
Yeah, and there is even like during like the Tanuki Suit's hiatus, some of the villains you fight in Super Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga are like they're not Goombas because you go to like this place called the Bean Kingdom, which is like the next door to the Mushroom Kingdom, and you fight basically bean versions of Goombas that have like the Tanuki tail and ears. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, they're making a reference. It'd be cool if it was Mario that had that shit, but all right, whatever,
Yeah.
But they finally got it back. I just really want them to bring the cape back. I really want them to bring the cape back in a game. And I was actually also playing this. I was trying to figure out what is other than nostalgia, because this version of Mario is not a one I've played a bunch because like I said, I had it for the DS and eventually my DS got stolen along with this game. So I haven't really played this one in a while. And whenever I play, I liked it, but it just wasn't the game that I had this version of the game I had a bunch of nostalgia for. So I was thinking, because I was looking like, why is it that I like this one so much as well as Mario World so much? And the new Super Mario Brothers franchise is something a little bit more like, okay, cool, I guess, And I think it's because even though this is still pixelated, it feels like each one has a little bit more of like all these other 2D Mario games have a particular signature, where new Super Mario Brothers feels more like I don't want to sound like a dick because I know it's Nintendo. Everything's group focused, everything's polished, but very group focus, very like, this is Mario that pops up like on a kid's like disposable birthday cup, or like birthday hat. And Mario's always done that. I'm not saying, I know he's a giant corporate icon, but you know what I mean? Like, this isn't like Mario that has a lot of, like, it just looks more of like, how do I put it? Like, there's Mario, like, oh, that's not Mario from Mario World. That's Mario from Mario 3. Oh, that's not Mario from Mario 1. That's Mario. It just seems like very just generic Mario. You know what I mean?
No, I know 100% what you mean there, because I remember when New Super Mario Brothers came, like right then as like, I guess a teenager when it was, I remember thinking like when that game did, it was like, oh, this game's literally made to be for like people who've been like, hey, remember when you played Mario Brothers in 1985 and you swore off video games after that and have never played them since? Come back in. Like, that's almost how it felt. And it felt like, hey, did you stick around with us the whole time and play every single Mario game? And because you're a big Nintendo fan, get the fuck out of here. Like, we don't need you around anymore. Like, we got new Super Mario Brothers now. And don't get me wrong, like, I like that game, but it always reminded me like one of those ones where it felt like it was two steps back, kind of in a sense, where it's just like, let's act like Mario World and Mario 3 didn't really happen. Like, that's always how that game kind of sort of felt, and we're just going to simplify it back to there, which at the same time, it was still kind of cool because we hadn't seen like a platforming Mario game that was not in a 3D world in a long time. So it was kind of new in that sort of sense. And, it was great. And then they took that idea and it was like, cool. And then they milked the living daylights out of it, making like 7 different versions, that were, kind of, they slightly added things each time. And they were fun, but it just wasn't the same as like, it was like what I was always looking for. It's like, couldn't you just make something that's like in that style of Mario 3 and World again? Like, that's what we really would rather have, I feel.
And when I say that, I don't mean something that's totally like pixelated. I mean, sure, I'd take it, but I mean, we already got Mario Maker. I mean, something that would have like, and I don't need something to be like every time like an experimental like look or something like that. I'd like it to still have like that Mario-esque vibe. But it's one of those things where other than like a couple of particular power-ups, when I think of the new Super Mario Brothers franchise, I can't think of like what which one is this? When I look at it, maybe I might be able to tell because of the pixels. Like, oh, this is obviously on the DS, so that narrows it down. But sometimes it's always like, all right, well, which one was, all right. He has the propeller suit, so I think it's Wii. Oh, he has the squirrel suit, so I guess that's the one for Wii U. Okay. But beyond that, there's a lot that it's just like, it doesn't really, it all kind of runs together, you know? I mean, okay, sometimes Yoshi's in them, sometimes he's not. And those games are fun because, yeah, it's side-scrolling Mario, but they all just kind of look the same. They don't really, where every other Mario game up to that point, a 2D Mario game and 3D Mario game, had a very particular style. I mean, one of the first things we covered on this show was the Mario Land 2 and how drastically different that one was for the time and even by today. I mean, with the exception of Lost Levels, every side-scrolling Mario game, and not just graphically, but every side-scrolling Mario game felt very different from one another up to Mario, New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of how it is. It's like, and this sounds kind of weird, but like something that would be kind of neat for Nintendo to do, and now once you throw this phrase in there, Nintendo's never going to do it, but is to do like a new Mario game, but it's done kind of like Sonic Mania style. So it looks like, you know, a cross between Mario 3 and Mario World and those kind of graphics, but maybe enhanced with almost like if there was a Nintendo, Sony, PlayStation kind of model, like, you know, with like the kind of the way, because that's how I feel at Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania feels like this is like almost like what Sega Saturn would have looked like if they would have just made a Sonic game in 2D. But have that kind of look and have it be a brand new story, so it still continues Mario, but like it, you know, it has a retro kind of feel, you know, and it's one of those ones. Sometimes you always kind of wonder if, you know, it's like, you know, they made Mario Maker, but it's like the only downfall of that is I always felt like it's fun. There's levels and everything like that, but without a story to connect everything together, sometimes it's almost like it loses me. Like I'll play it for a couple of days, I'll have a good time, but then I kind of realize that's all it really is. Oh, okay.
Like I feel like New Super Mario, as opposed to Mario 3 or Mario World, but we'll skip to Mario 3 since that's what this should be about. I feel like that one, like I play Mario 3 because I really like Mario 3 and I really want to just get a couple levels in and play it. Where New Super Mario Brothers, it feels more like the ones I've played have been fun, but I feel like I got them in. I'll kill a couple levels. Okay, that's it. Where Mario 3, I want to keep playing it, you know, until I have to go do something else.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones. I said I played pretty much all the other ones, and I think the downfall of the Mario, like the new Super Mario Bros. Games, is like it was fine at first, but then it kind of just did the same thing over and over and over again. And it was just like they were like milking that system, you know, and that's why I think when Mario Odyssey finally came out, that was the game that felt like extremely refreshing. It was just like, oh crap, here we finally have like in a sense a true. Don't get me wrong, I like Mario Galaxy and all that stuff a lot too. Don't get me wrong, those ones are really awesome. But I remember Mario Odyssey was that one where it's like this feels like the closest that we've ever gotten to having like in a sense another true Mario 64 one, you know. That's what almost like how neat that game was, and like why I always thought that game was almost like one of the pinnacle games that Switch ever had.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like like because everyone talks about what a big impact Mario 64 was. And then you play Mario Odyssey, you're like, oh, this is even because at some point I feel like Mario Odyssey is to what Mario World is, you know, to what for like I don't know where you go after Mario Odyssey as far as that kind of thing, that 3D format. You know what I mean? Because even Mario Galaxy 2, like we're just going to try Mario Galaxy again, but you know we're going to add like Yoshi in there and more levels, which is fun, you know. But where Mario Odyssey really stepped up the game as like kind of Mario 3 to Mario World, you know? So I guess for me, a dream Mario game would be, 2D Mario game would be something to the effect of like you said, kind of like a Sonic Mania thing. And this is probably too nip. I'm not saying it has to be this. This is the only thing that will appease me, you know, but something where it's like, there's that you still see it from time to time, but there's that 90s kind of Mario, like 2D artwork you see, you know, there'd be in a lot of instruction manuals where the sprites look like that. Look, it plays like a Mario game, but he's animated in that kind of format, you know? And yeah, I know Nintendo has the money to do it, but I don't know if they would do that. They probably want Mario to stay in 3D or whatever, but you know, and then it has some of the has some new power-ups, has some classic power-ups, something kind of like that.
Yeah, well, because it's one of those ones like I miss having actual animated stuff because I know it's just like the thing. The 3D thing is like it's cheaper and easier, so that's why they always do it. And like there's that weird perception that people think it's better because it's in 3D. Like in a sense, like I don't know why there's that weird feeling that when people, I think there's that thing that like when the average audience sees 2D this day and age and they're not artists or something like that, it looks like it's archaic. Like like I always refer to it like they look at it like it's like stop motion animation or something like that, and they don't realize that actually takes way more work than anything else does.
Or there's something like, well, I don't know. I think you could, because how many people like Cuphead, So I feel like there is there is an audience.
Well, I'm not saying there's that's the thing is like there is the artist audience and so on, but I think like the majority audience, because even Cuphead doesn't appeal to like the majority of it. It appeals for like a niche audience, a hard niche audience, of course. But I just think it's like, why can't we just have that just to have it? You know what I mean?
I want my old cartoons. Yeah, no. Well, I'm sure that it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't. I mean, I don't think Nintendo's going to do that. It'd be cool if they did. And I'm not saying that's the only thing that I want. But I mean, after playing this game, it kind of reminds me of why I still like this franchise a lot. And because for a while, a lot of this stuff is just something like, oh, I played that before. I really like it. Look, I have figures of it in my shelf behind me. Isn't that nice? And then you go back and play it like, oh yeah, this is one of the best fucking games made. Oh right. It's just not nostalgia that's telling me that. This is probably one of the funnest games out there, and definitely one of the best Mario games.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those ones when you think of it like it's just the NES games. I mean, it's like that pinnacle. Like it's an NES game where like a child might not be able to handle many of those old ones unless they're really old school retro feeling kind of kids. But this is one of those games. It's like you generally like you could still jump into it, play it. Doesn't matter which kind of version it is, and it would still kind of work out and so on like that. There's something kind of magical about it. I mean, I'm just even thinking on like back to. There was a point where I think it might have been when I was maybe, I don't know, slightly older, but not that much older. I mean, it would have been not like a total young kid, but maybe like early high school. But I remember I was like, I got to beat this game through all the levels on the NES version. And I remember I spent like 3 days because you can't save on the NES one. I left that Nintendo on for like 3 days straight. And, that was the time where we were like, is this safe? Is this like a fire hazard to have this thing going? But like I would just come home from school every day, turn on and beat like a couple more worlds. And I just was like, I just want to beat NES all the way through and just say I did it. And I remember doing that once. I was like, well, that was fun. That was cool. I was really afraid the whole time. I'm like, it's going to freeze on me at some point. That was like the biggest worry. It's like, I know that's going to happen. At some point it's just not going to, there's some of those older games. It's kind of like playing even Zelda on like the NES, like nowadays. It's like, I feel like you're taking a big risk when you do that. It's like, is that battery going to keep working for you? Is it going to stay on? Is it better just to leave the system on? Just don't turn it off. Like sometimes that feels safer than trusting your battery.
That also seems, just the idea of like being on the final boss of something and like the Game Boy light starts flickering red, like no.
Yeah, there's no option you can do. It's like once that happens, not like nowadays you're like, I just get my DS, I'll just plug it back into the wall. It's like no, back then the system had to go off for you to change batteries.
Or there'd be that thing like sometimes you have those adapters, like you could plug it into the wall and keep playing. But if you plug it into the wall while it's still on, it'll immediately turn off or something like, no, So depending on the kind of one.
Yeah, it's like it had to shuffle like your power throughout there. So there's always like that dangerous panic mode setting in, where like nowadays it's like that's like almost the best thing about the Switch is I love like it could be winter time and it's snowing out and everything like that. And sometimes like other systems you're like, shit, I better make sure I save and get ready because the power could go out at any moment. You're like the Switch is like, yeah, power goes out. You pick the thing back up. Hey, I got battery back up. Hey, there we go. Not losing my file. It's not like PlayStation's gonna yell at me because that's like you turned the thing off improperly, you fucking idiot. And you're like, it's not my fault, Sony. Yeah, fucking right. It's your fault.
I like how like the programming system of the Switch is just kind of like an old man in the office. He's just been down in records like for the last like he's been doing this job for 25 years, and he's like, oh yeah, not a big deal. It's just right back there. Don't worry about it, man. It's not going nowhere. You're fine. Like. You don't seem stressed at all. I got tenure. What the fuck they gonna do? The worst they throw me out to give me a gold watch. What the fuck's gonna happen?
Yeah, I take that gold watch, take down the punch, retire. It's going to work out.
Yeah, don't worry about it, man. I got you. You're all set. You're all set. Oh, hey, man, my paperwork, my filing is late. Don't worry. I'll just erase this and put that in there. How's that sound? Like, dude, thanks. In my ass. Yeah, fuck about it, dude. All right, get the fuck out.
Yeah, totally. It's like the nice thing about it. It's just, it's just having that peace of mind on like the Switch. It's like that's why I like battery backups. Like you almost kind of go like, shit, I wish every system had a battery backup, but just for that fact that like gives you that extra moment. I mean, I have like a battery backup on my PC for like that whole reason too, so that if the power goes out, it gives you that like countdown window of like you have 10 minutes to get the computer saved and shut down, or else all hell will break loose.
That's where you just have like the red siren on the side of the computer on the monitor,
just like spinning light, like brr, 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 like
no pressure, no pressure.
It just keeps repeating over and over. It's got the Metal Gear Solid theme. Dun 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 dun. dun. Oh god, I gotta take the key card to the freezer. Wait a second. Wait, that's not what I have to do.
You have to two opposite sides of the room. The keys have to be turned at the same time.
Like damn it, is Meryl dead or alive? I'm not too sure. But yeah, just
that's why Pizza Boys 14's been taking a minute.
Pizza Boys 14's coming together.
I'm joking. I know you have good work ethic. I'm just joking.
It's good. I'm about 4 pages away from finishing all the pencils, and then I get to look forward to inking. It's like there's that weird feeling you get when you finish pencils. You're like, there we go. Oh, nice and done. No, wait a second. It's halfway done. Fuck. It's like I don't know what it is. It's like you're like, I'm just not even. Maybe not even like halfway done. I might only be like 40% done when like that is. It gives a feeling of completion because it's like, hey, there it all is. There it is in sketchy form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but still not. But yeah, going through all these Marios, as I said, like this was the one, like when we first started our Mario Land podcast, it was like the second I finished Mario Land, it was just like I booted this one up right afterwards. I'm like, I'm in a Mario mood now. And you can never go wrong. You can never play Mario 3 too many times. So it will be cool to see once they start putting more. I mean, I like to say, it's like, I can't wait to put more of these versions on the Switch. Not like I don't own them on Game Boy, NES, Super Nintendo, ROM, whatever the hell else, Wii U, I have them so many times over, but I will always like, for some reason, be like, oh, Nintendo has a new version of the same game that I've bought from them 7 times over. Yeah, give me it. It's the same way like Sonic the Hedgehog is. If Sonic 2 appears on something, I'm like, I better get it then. I mean, I think I've bought Sonic 2 like 12 times in my entire life. Like, if I added up all my versions.
I may have bought it 3 times, I think.
Well, it's like I have it like multiple times on Genesis. I have it on, Sega Saturn. I have it on literally Dreamcast. I have it on, Game Boy Advance. The Sonic Mega Collection, the Xbox collection that they had, the other Sega one that I bought you for Switch or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I had like the kind of remastered ones that they did on like also on Switch. So I have multiple versions there. Then of course the Sonic Mania one or whatever the heck that one, or not Mania, whatever they call Origins, plus the phone versions of it. Yeah. It's just like, I feel like if it's there, it's like, especially a lot of times you see like a phone. It's like, okay, I got it on an iPhone. I gotta have it on Android. $2.99. Fuck it, Sonic 2. Why not? Well, why not have more versions of it?
Since you talk about Origins for a second, we actually got to mention this, and it's going to be. It's not Mario. It's definitely not Mario, but it is linked to Mario just through like blood feuds and whatnot. With the Sonic Mania Plus thing coming out, with apparently they're going to fix some of the problems, some of the bugs that Origins had, and then they're adding Amy Rose, and then it feels kind of like some of the shit that like, guys, why the fuck wasn't this there the first time? I don't know. You're like, okay, so you can play as like Knuckles in all games with Sonic CD. That's not an answer. You can play as Knuckles in all games with Sonic CD. Why now? All right, you're not answering the fucking question, but okay. It's just one of those things. Like, I'm glad it's happening later than never. But then they're adding in Amy to its 2D Sonic game, and they're adding in these other aspects and challenges and whatnot. So,
and they got all the Game Gear games are coming into it.
The
too.
Game Gear games as well too. So
that's kind of cool. I'm like, I'll pay $10 for that. Why not? Like, you know what I mean? Like Sonic's birthday, he needs the money.
Yeah. Well. Sonic, well, Sega does. Well, I don't know what it is. You feel like it should. I feel like it's like. I feel like Sonic is like, it's like a child actor with like abusive parents that are just kind of like, that constantly bitterly. No. You want to do Sonic. No, look at me. You want to do the suspense thriller movie. This is the movie that is going to take you up to the next level and people are going to take you seriously. No, you want to do the avant-garde movie. This is the movie that they're no longer going to put you in Home Alone 4 or some shit. This is the thing that's going to get you an Academy Award, possibly. You just got to fucking bring it. No, fuck your dad. Don't listen to your fucking dad. Listen to me. So, like just two like shitty fucking parents trying to control the future of like their actor child. That's what Sega comes across. They're just shuffling this kid around and just throwing him in whatever to make him money.
And it's like one parent's from Japan and one parent's from America, and he's just always going back and forth. And it's just like it's like they were married once, so that was the Genesis era, and then after that, there's been this weird divide where he has to go back and forth like on weekends.
Not to make it like dueling. Not to ride on stereotypes too hard here, but in that aspect, I feel like the American parent is like an American mom who's being kind of like no longer the actor scenario, but an American mom saying, just be yourself, do what you want to do, Sonic. Just you got to express yourself. And like the dad is like a very strict like Japanese businessman. Like, no. Like he's going to become a doctor. He's going to law school. He's doing one of those things,
Yeah, well, that's kind of true because Sega of Japan, I almost said to know of Japan, but Sega of Japan always treated Sonic like a lot more harsher and be like, no, he follows this fucking path. Where like Sega America was like, no, come on, like we're gonna do this. It's gonna be awesome. This is what we want to do with Sonic. And a lot of times Sega Japan was the one that turned down so many of those ideas.
I know they don't even say anything. You just give like a stern look across the room. You hear that like, oh, like in the background.
It's like a samurai movie.
Yeah. Like no one could say no. No one could like challenge that stare. Like, all right, we'll stop him there.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones. I'm still looking forward to that Sonic Origin. See, it's just cool to have all these like. It's good that I love having all these versions of games that I already own so many times over, just like Mario 3. But for some reason, having another version of it on a new system is like, it's like, oh, this is cool. It's sometimes when I go to buy certain games, like when you buy a game for a system and you're like, and you kind of hate to sort of say it after you buy it, you're like, when are you ever going to get time to go around and play this? And by the time you probably do get time to come around and play this, you're going to end up just buying it on like a system three generations away from now.
I'll be 100% honest. This sounds more of kind of like a Spencer problem because I don't rebuy every game. That I rebuy the ones I really like, but this is not one I really had to rebuy because I'm already on the streaming service for it. So. But no, I get what you mean.
Well, I did rebuy. It's like the streaming service, but you technically buying it because you pay for it. That's how I sort of look at it. Like it's different, but because that's the thing about that streaming service. Like I literally get it, and I'm all excited about it, but I literally own pretty much every single game that they've ever had on there. It's not like there's something brand new that's like, oh shit, I've never played this before, other than some of those weird European games. But
actually, on that note. Not every other franchise, but regarding Sonic, actually, you're right. I have Sonic on a bunch of different things. Mario is the one where it's a little loose, little like dicier on. Like every other franchise, I don't rebuy everything, but Sonic, I seem to have Sonic on every console. It seems.
And it's just one of those ones. I like having new versions. And if there's something that's like, it sounds weird. If there's a game I really like and there's a really good dialed in version of it, I'm all down for that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes there's those ones that like the average person can't tell that this version is just that much more dialed in. But like, you just kind of know, you're like, no, that one is pretty smooth. That's like all those Nintendo ones for the most part, like on their like virtual console on the Switch. I got like they're all like super dialed in versions of them, you know what I mean? Especially if you get like you got the new versions of controllers, like the NES controller, 64 one, you hook those things up and it's like, there you go. You're set and ready to rock and roll.
Quick thing, because I never actually, I beat it once on NES a long time ago, but I don't really count it because I used the Game Genie to give myself the hammer suit. The whistles?
Oh, the hammer suits?
The hammer suit and fly. So that's just, I don't really count it as me really winning at the end of the day. And I don't remember. That's the one way I beat it on the NES days. So this version, Do you remember if, because I noticed when, like, because I think this is, you're talking about different versions. I think this is the definitive version to play this game because it's Super Nintendo graphics. You could see a lot of in the background, a lot of the things they wanted to do, like, especially the final world. It's not like some goofy, like, ooh, look at the mountains with eyeballs, look at the wacky shapes. Like, no, dude, no. There's fucking volcanoes back there. There's lava. This looks kind of drab and dreary. It's not, and there's tanks made of wood coming towards you for some reason, But when you get to the end of the game, I noticed they're playing. Maybe it was always there, and I didn't notice till now. But did they take the Peach theme from Mario 64 and drop it in there, or was that theme originally in a previous Mario game and Mario 64 updated it?
Ooh, that is a good question because I don't remember. It's been a long time since I played all the way through the NES version of it, so I almost can't say what the heck the song was there towards the end.
Yeah, I also, it's also the small things. I was watching it because every time I remember the other version, you were like saving you weren't just saving Princess Peach. Princess Peach got kidnapped at the end. You were going through and saving all the other kingdoms, and then Bowser's like, "Hey, fuck you! I took your woman." Like, "Oh, you motherfucker!" You're going after him. But I just remember them being just random animals. But I know this. I'm assuming. I was wondering as I was playing through this, like, is that what he was in the original? I don't remember. Then I saw like the second to last king was a Yoshi. I'm like, no. This is probably just for this version. So they kind of had fun with that because I think one of them there's like a Yoshi. There one was like one of those dinosaurs from Mario World. One of those like Triceratops things. And I think there's even something that was from like another Mario game. I think there's like one like not a Mario game. Like I think actually a Zelda game. Wasn't there a creature from a Zelda game in there?
Maybe there wasn't that. I'm trying to draw a blank on that.
I could be drawing a blank.
Because I know in the original version they were just pretty much enemies from Mario 3 generally. That's all that they sort of like kind of were, and had they had sort of looks different because there's the snake guy. He's always been in there and so on like that.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, and then also there's that thing at the end. You beat the game, and then Princess Peach is like, "Oh no, but Mario, the princess is in another castle." Fucking got you. Yeah, and she just starts like laughing, like, "Bye, get the fuck out of here." Like that's it, done. No, you're not gonna score. Who do you think you are, Link? He doesn't score. He never scores. He just goes home and jerks off alone.
And fix my fucking plumbing, not the one you want.
He does it again. That kid literally gets reincarnated just to go through all this shit over again and not to score.
Zelda just leans out her window and does the couple buttons of her blouse. Leans out. Oh, Link! Like, oh fuck yeah. Nothing. And just go the other way. Like, fuck yeah. Fucking, he's gonna turn this motherfucker to an incel by the time I'm done with him.
Just like there's the thing I never can get it out of my mind, but there's that episode of like the Zelda cartoon show where the episode literally ends with like there's like kind of like the old school like the knight on a white horse and he talks like this and everything like that, and he's like, "Come on, Zelda, let's go back to the castle. Thanks for nothing there, Link." And like Link's like literally sitting in like a mud pile, like fucking on the side of the road, like though he did all the fucking work to save whatever they had to do in the episode. And Princess Zelda chooses fucking Prince Charming and rides off. And you're like, fuck that cunt.
Yeah, see what happens next time a pig breaks into your fucking palace, bitch. I'm just imagining the whole thing with like fucking tries it again. It's like, oh, Link, there's the 3 buttons out there. Like, yeah. Do you have the phone number to that one Goron guy? Like, fuck. Just really just fucks with his expectations.
It's funny that like that's how like the 80s mentality was. I don't know why it was. It was just like, I don't know. It's like, we got to prepare children for real life. You're going to go through a lot of shit. It's going to be a lot of hard work. You're going to save the day and nobody's going to be appreciative of it. You think you're going to get the girl, but you're not.
Mario's not coming for you. He's coming for Prince. Oh, not Mario. Zelda's not going to choose you. Zelda's going to choose Prince Chad. Okay. Yeah. No.
Let's be honest. When you're poor, you're always poor. Doesn't matter how many rupees you steal throughout your adventure. You're always going to be poor.
Look, Zelda's the Triforce of wisdom. Okay, you have the Triforce of courage because you're brave enough to think it's going to happen this time. Not smart enough, brave enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that Mario, like the 1986 movie that we watched or whatever. And it's just like Mario and Luigi go through all that stuff. And Princess Zelda's like, cool, I'm glad you got, Mr. Spaghetti Pants. Well, see you guys later. I can't remember what he was. He was
a fucking caterpillar thing, a caterpillar dog thing. And he's just like, oh, thanks.
She's like, thanks, we're going to go hang out. You guys go back to Brooklyn or wherever the hell you're from.
Back to your convenience store in the middle of the fucking desert.
Yeah, just like that's it, done. And it's just like one of those ones like I don't know, it's like I just feel like whoever's writing it's just fucking like they just gotta be bitter, be like, this is what fucking happened to me, like I tried so hard, did everything for her and everything, she fucked me over, man. Fuck me. So I gotta let the kids know that this is what the world is and that you just can't trust people out there because it's just how it is. It's just not gonna work out. It doesn't matter how good you are. Just because you're the best guy at fucking Zelda doesn't mean it's shit to her.
I just like to imagine like Mario, like into that movie. That guy writes that version of the movie where Mario, like, there's that part in Way of the Gun where the guy's like playing the ultimate version of Russian roulette by himself. He has like 4 revolvers like in a pillowcase, and he's just going through them, just spins them around, puts them in the pillowcase, shuffles them up, pulls them back out, and he's almost disappointed it didn't happen this time,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's weird. It's like that's even how Mario 3 ends. It's just like Princess Peach. She just like laughs like a maniac and just like bye-bye.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Go clean my fucking toilet.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those ones. It's just like all that work, But you know what? Mario and Link they're just good-natured blue-collar boys that they try to do what's right. They try to do the right thing, and they they've met up like at a dive bar, like, I think it's gonna happen this time, man. I think it's gonna happen. And the other's like, yeah, man, me too. And Samus is just at the bar, hard drinking and everything like that. Be like, fucking bitches, what do you know about war? About death. I went to a whole planet and I was supposed to be there to research it. Instead, I just shot the living daylights out of everything. I watched poor creatures die in front of me and I enjoyed it.
The closest thing I had to a son gave its life for me, and now it's part of me. Like, oh, this got fucked up. No, it's just like
oh, like boo, little princesses don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to wake up with the memories I have every day.
Or she'd either do that, or she would just sit there and be like, I enjoy the heartache. I enjoy the suffering. Let me just sit back. Like, yeah, you should definitely do it again, Mario. Instead of being like, you know what? I think I just need to be there even more for her. If she calls, I'm not gonna wait for like 3 rings. As soon as I see her number, I'm gonna pick it up and answer right away. I'm gonna show how dedicated I am. She's like, I know what I should tell him, but instead I'm just say, yes, go for it. Women love it when they're that assertive. When you're that assertive, just keep doing that. Do not question it. She is playing hard to get. Really? You think so? Oh, definitely. Next month, same story. Like, you just got to try harder. But when's it my time? Like, oh, I don't know, but it's gonna happen sooner or later. You just got to keep on going at it.
It reminds me, like, there's a scene in like the very first opening cutscene of Mario 3. It sounds weird, but like okay, it's right when like Mario's like he goes to talk to Princess and he goes up and he's like talking to her. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, well, he doesn't say anything. He just jumps and makes into the sound and like assumes like, yeah, we'll take off and stop all this madness. And then Luigi kind of walks up and he like stares for him. It's like he has a moment and then he walks away, turns back and looks again like Princess, she said that you gave me a handy in the back room the other day. Tell Mario this. Like, no, okay, good. I just want to be a good brother is all. I feel like it's the right thing to do. I know you said you were drunk and I happened to just be there, but
he just takes he just takes a step forward. She just snaps her fingers and like a little red laser dot appears on his chest, like one word, one fucking word. That's all it takes. I got my Green Beret toads on you all the time, okay? I could actually have like my toads of SEAL Team 6 go handle Bowser, but it's funny to watch the fat man do it, all right?
Yeah, exactly. One of those ones. But yeah, Mario, good times, classic NES days. You know, whatever version you play, it's all good. I'm just looking forward to all these more ones now. Nintendo keeps dropping all these games out, and you're like, it's that weird thing. There'll be like a brand new game that comes out, and they're like, but I could play, Metroid Fusion again for like, why not play something I've already played instead of something else? You know, like they just keep putting these things out, and you're just like, yeah, okay. You know, let's be honest. It's like that classic thing. Like, let's be honest. Generally, an older game's always going to be much better than like whatever new game that comes out. And I'm not saying that to be like cynical or anything like that, but you know, it's like at the end of the day, you're like, can't go wrong with classic.
With all the nostalgia, it's just like, you know, it's comfort food at the end of the day, you know, that kind of thing. And it's always going to be as opposed. I mean, it depends on the game too, but yeah, no, I get you. Some of those games, some games I've gone back to play don't hold up, but I'm happy to say Mario 3 really does.
Yeah, no, you know, for the most part, I mean, like for me, I'm almost people like I generally can always go back to stuff because I think I've always rotated playing through games where I think some people like they stop playing like old games and then all of a sudden like 10 years plus pass. And of course that makes the game seem really old. But if you've only played modern games, then you kind of go back, you have a hard time jumping into certain things. But yeah, no, this one's always fun and so on. Real quick question though. Is that did they drop that Super Mario All-Stars version on the Switch? Did that finally disappear like they said it was going to?
Well, I didn't even know it disappeared. I hope it didn't fucking disappear. If it did,
I remember that they announced that it was supposed to only be up there for like 6 months or something like that. And like I just kind of thought about like because you can actually play Mario 3 on NES, Game Boy Advance, and if that version's still on there, I don't know why they would take it off. I feel like Nintendo Science just does weird shit like that. Like it's like the same thing when they had the Fire Emblem. They're like, we're doing this really cool, bringing Fire Emblem 1, the NES version, coming to the US for the first time. It's got some extra features in it. You can play it at 2 times speed. You can watch like, you know, Marth's facial expressions. Blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, it's only on sale for 6 months, and you better fucking get it or else that's it. Like, why? It's digital, you know. I mean, I bought it because I was like, shit, I want this. And I played the Living Daylights. I'm like, man, I didn't think I thought I was going to play it for like an hour and be like, this is cool. And I was like, man, I'm having a great old time. But yeah, it's just like why? It's digital. Just leave it on the Switch until the Switch dies, you know?
I don't know. It's Nintendo.
You know, I mean, like we're at that point now where like, if you want 3DS games or Wii U games, I think it's like the very ending point of, you have to go on there and download them right now. Or you can always download, but you have to buy them right now, I guess. Is the key thing. So there's some of those ones, which I think I got all the Wii U games I kind of wanted that like were downloadable only, but yeah, there was always something to search for. But till then, all kinds of fun stuff. We're getting ready for Mario March, turning into Mario April with the new Mario Brothers movie. More Mario times. Go to oldmenwich.com, more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys and all our old animations and all that fun stuff. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.